Hello, hello, hello. Different setup, so we are going to be adjusting a few bits. This is still not complete. This is still on my phone, but we're going to get some new webcam and microphone equipment in soon. Just let me know if that's all okay, if you can see everything. We've had a bit of a change around. You can now see the Chelsea wall behind me. That was pointing a bit wrong. Got the big flag, and then we do this. You can sort of see. Yes, there's some half and half scarves. A lot of people are against them, but I do them to commemorate certain games that mean quite a bit to me. John Terry signed the shirt, and then a few little sort of framed programs and bits and bobs behind me for the streaming background, which is cool. Like I say, when it's all fully set up and complete, hopefully the webcam will capture it even better than this. If you haven't already, please smash the like button. We are just getting the stream started, but every single like, even if everybody just quickly likes the stream as soon as they join, massively, massively helps for the rest of the stream and growing the community. And as we go from there, let's get into it. Everybody drop a message in the chat if you're here, and we're going to welcome everybody to the stream. We'll speak about Nottingham Forest. I'll answer some questions about the game, because I don't think it was as bad as some people are making out, but we will get into that in our own time. Ivan says he's excited for the stream. Thank you, bro. Also, tell me, is the fan too loud? Because I've got the fan next to me, which a lot of people will be confused about because the weather is not nice in the UK. But where in my office, I've got a lot of screens, a lot of my computer, and a lot of other bits on and around the office, like what I'm doing, it gets hot. So I've got the fan on just away from me. So let me know if that's too loud. But yeah, big up Ivan. Daniel, hopefully we don't get any injuries over the international break and have James back as well. That would be unbelievable. Big up, Connor. I hope you're good. Thank you very much. Hopefully we don't. I'm going to move this over a little bit. Hang on. There we go. So we can get to this. Hopefully we don't get any injuries over the international break. Hopefully we have a fully fit squad. Like James back in style, like you just said. Yeah, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. That's the big aim, isn't it? Get out of international break unscathed. Unscathed. Tac Bow is a great tactical board app. Highly recommend. Not heard of that one, but I'll give it a look after. Is it an app specifically, or is it can you get it on like a web browser? Because I will give it a look after this. This is obviously just the go-to one that I use at the minute. But I'll definitely give it a look if that is a good one. What would your back four be against Liverpool at Anfield? Just realised I forgot to tweet that we're live, so let me very quickly, just do that. Bang. If you haven't dropped a like, it's just an app. Okay, cool, bingo. I'll check that out. But yeah, please do drop a like if you're just joining the stream. It does help me out. If you just drop that first like, and then you can just chill out, sit back and relax, and interact with some questions. So what would my back four be against Liverpool at Anfield? This is probably it's subject to change, right? But obviously Cucurella and Fofana out, so it'd probably be tossing in for Fofana and Vega in for Cucurella. How you then configure that in a back line, you can decide on the day. Do you want to still stick with Colwell in here? Do you want to invert? Yeah, Tosin and Colwell is the back two, I agree. But yeah, it depends what way you want to go with it, really, and how you want to, like, who you want to invert from which side. Like, obviously, you could have Gusto as a right centre back, but he does definitely like Gusto being in those central areas. Like I said earlier in the year, I think it's more so for that counter pressing ability that he gives you in that central area, and I think that's been shown quite early on. I think he defends well in the middle of the pitch, allows Chelsea to win the ball back in dangerous areas and attack from there. So I like that about him in those central zones. And I think he's also the fastest recovery defender from this area of the pitch. So I think it also helps to have him tracking back rather than facing forward to attack, like dropping in, like into those spaces further forward. Let's put that to red. But yeah, that's what I would say. Take it back, we do still need an Osman profile. I'm not sure if you saw my last video, so it came out yesterday. That was probably one of the biggest things I mentioned, right? And I do want to mention that today. If you're wondering why I've just realised the flag is going as well. That's because the fan is pointing towards it. The flag is, it looks like it's sort of wobbling in the wind. That is just the fan making that do that. But yeah, with the Ottoman profile, with the box efficient striker, box dominator, whatever you want to call it, that is something that I do believe we need. I said it all summer. I'm a big fan of Jackson. I'm a big fan of Nkunku. But we needed it, and I still think we need it, even with Jackson having a great start. And I wouldn't change anything about how Jackson started the season. I just think that by not having that option at all, I think you're doing yourself as a team a massive disservice, and you're making it very easy for teams to sort of trap you and make you play in a certain way rather than you being able to pull the strings. And when you're a team with the ascendancy against a low block, you want to be calling the shots. Because what is very common when you face a low block, right, is, of course, they're going to pack the middle of the pitch, and they're going to make you earn it where it matters, in the box, right? So the idea is they want to force these balls in. They want you to cross the ball because they've got two, sometimes three if they're playing about five, big centre halves. And the lower levels of teams that play low blocks, some of their best attributes that you're looking for in defenders, and this is the case with scouting because teams know what they're going to come up against in the season. Most relegation to mid-table sides, when they're scouting for defenders, they will want elite, not elite because they're bottom of the, like they'll want some of their primary attributes to be box defending, aerially, on the ground, IQ, and leadership and organizational skills to make, like, for offside, for like holding your line and bits like that in and around the box. And Forest did that really well. And again, they knew that if they could force us to put these balls in, Jackson's not a big enough threat aerially to cause them enough issues. If that on a different day is Osimhen, or it's Duran, or it's Haaland in City's case, you could keep going. There's names. You could, like Sesko, you could throw names in and around. Liam Delap for Ipswich is one that I'm going to be talking about very soon because much like I was on the Gyökeres hype early, I said when he was at Coventry that he was far too good for that level and he needed a big jump, and many Premier League clubs should be on him. He went to Sporting and he's now smashing it, and now people want him at Chelsea. I said about Duran, he is now smashing it. My next one is Delap. I think he's the next him, and I think he's very Evan Ferguson in terms of his progression and development. My main thing would be you could probably get him a lot cheaper than Ferguson. So I think they're two similar profiles that, again, many top sides will be watching those two players closely with the eye of value in the transfer market. You're not sure Duran, despite the goals, has demonstrated that. In terms of the box, again, it's because I think it's more so that he's got that sort of bulkier profile. He's better in the air. He's explosive, and again, there's multiple defenders have to watch him. So, like, I think it was his header. He came off the bench and scored a header. I can't think who it was against now. Might have been Fulham. It was one of the games where he obviously came off the bench, which he's done a few times now. But they won the game from his header. Might not have been Fulham actually, but they won 2-1. And he sort of bumped the defender, peeled off into here, and then headed the ball like over into this like far corner. And it's just those little sort of like smart, clever box movements and little ability to initiate the contact himself because he knows that he'll come off better in that situation, and just almost just having a bully. And it gets to the point where if that happens a few times, instead of having one defender on you, they almost feel like they have to double up, and but like they won't want to leave one centre back on you. They'll want both their centre backs to be very close and narrow. And then when that happens, there's more spaces here, and it again, it's always a byproduct of what happens, what the defensive and the opposition team changes. And I think against Nottingham Forest, they were quite comfortable playing the way they did. Don't get me wrong, I still think we did more than enough to win the game. We made the chances. We should have scored in the dying embers. Yes, they had chances too, but I think that was more so down to the way that the game became frantic. So yeah, it's one of those. But for me, we did enough in that game. I think the only thing that needs to be addressed in January, if not the summer, is still that position of. And again, this could be done in multiple ways. It doesn't mean you have to go out and sign Osimhen, because then, yes, what you are saying is if you sign Osimhen, Jackson's minutes may hinder, and Jackson may feel less valued, and it may have a knock-on effect. I'd still go and get Osimhen, but having said that, I wanted Duran. I now think the boat has passed. I think you're gonna have to pay out of the means for Duran, which is too high risk. So I was just reading the chat there. Sorry. I'd start and Nkunku against Liverpool and also Pedro Neto. What do you mean by employ too many box crashers, shadow strikers? I understand the shadow. Like, do you mean sort of? You think that because we have so many shadow strikers, it is an issue from a tactical perspective, or you think it isn't at all? I'm interested to see what you mean by that, Bingo. Yeah, I'd start Nkunku against Liverpool and also Pedro Neto. I would as bad as it is for Neto, I'm still happy with this wing pairing right now. And it's unfortunate because I don't think Neto is a brilliant player and he's fit, which is why you should be utilising him, because there will be times in the season that he isn't. And I would have brought him on earlier in the game at the weekend. But then having said that, I was happy with Sancho Madueke. So it's hard to say where you do that. But for me, they both start. And I actually disagree with this, RX, purely because I think against Liverpool, the first thing I'm going to be watching out for in that game, and I've already noted it down now, and we've got 2 weeks till I have to make any pre-match notes, is who's going to hold the ball. Who's going to hold the ball more? Because Liverpool have held. They've been holding more of the ball, right? I think it's 50. It might be 60% at the minute, just below percent possession after their 7 games in the Prem. So they want to have the ball. They want to be ascendant on the ball. If that's the case, which I would assume, I think they will. I think the onus will be on them to hold more of the ball. I think we will sit deeper. I don't think we'll go man for man in any means. I think we'll sit in quite a relatively low block, not a low, like a mid block, and look to sort of press them. But I think it'll be very zonal in that approach. But in that case, I think that the chances will then come again when we can sort of absorb pressure in these deeper areas. I'll just put it into the 4 because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. Absorb pressure almost in this shape, or even sometimes like this, right, where it looks like a 5. And then hitting on the break, and to do this, you need Jackson running the channels. I think if this is Nkunku, and you're going to have Palmer in the 10, which is fairly obvious, I think that where you want to hurt them is in transition with the wingers. And again, can you make those balls? So I think against Liverpool, the main question I'd be asking is, do you go safe and do you go Lavia alongside Casado for the Liverpool game? Now, I want to instantly put out the fire that people will say that I've done that, because I'm one of the defenders of Enzo Fernandez. I don't think he's been that bad, right? I think he's been fine. He was poor against Forest. Let's get that out of the way. He was poor. But he's not an issue for me. If anything, he's a strength to this Chelsea team overall. But against Liverpool, I would not mind that protection. And I still want Palmer centrally. So to do that, it would have to be Enzo that comes out the team. So maybe that is the team I would play. If you really, and it's risky because he's been really good, and that's why I would start him purely on merit. If you really wanted to go game plan centric, Mudryk or Neto on this side to again exploit, and also just to drop in and be a little bit more physical defensively. But Sancho's done that well. He did that really well at the weekend, so he would 100% start. But then, as you've said here, would I start Neto left wing against Liverpool? I think that could be very helpful. I agree pretty much with what I just said. So yes, there's a case to be made, but I would start Sancho purely based on the fact he's earned it, and I think he's actually been really good defensively too. Jackson is going to be in Van Dijk's pocket. I can tell you that for a fact. If we play Enzo in the game, we're going to get done all over the pitch. We need Lavia to stay in the midfield. Yeah, like I say, I can see the argument for Lavia to stay in midfield. Yeah, I just think if Nkunku is in here, I just think Liverpool will just shut us off really easily. I think without Jackson in this game, even if he's not the one getting the ball, I just think you need someone that's making those runs with intent to almost drag players away with him, especially on this side of the pitch. So yeah, there's no way I wouldn't start Jackson for me. We shouldn't have a problem with pulling off shots against a low block. And yeah, the getting shots off though isn't an issue. Gusto had a few from the edge of the box. Felix had a few, and Nkunku had a few. We have good shot volume. I think Madueke had 7, Palmer had 6. Like, the shot volume's fine. I think we had 22 shots against Forest, and they're in a low block. Like, we can get those shots off, but it's how much XG can you generate from those shots? And sometimes, like I said with the low blocks, you could accumulate 8 long shots, for example, and each one's worth 0.02, 0.04, 0.06, whatever. Even those 8 shots sometimes won't even equivalent to one good cross into the box that finds the target man's head, and they get a chance from this sort of range to finish, and that could be anywhere from a 0.5 xg upward. Could be better, could be slightly worse, but my point is that one chance, and it's different, and you're going to generate more from it. And it's good to have a mixture, right? Because then again, like I said earlier, the idea is if, say, this is Osimhen, and they are so worried about him that they're all dropping off. So many players are like, they're so infatuated by him in the box. If anything, that just gives Palmer more room to get that shot away. And if then they're worried about Palmer, then my word, there's going to be acres in these areas. Like, it's all about catering things as the game goes on, and that's the tool that I think Chelsea miss, is that box striker. I just think Chelsea don't have it. Yeah, Fun and Cucurella suspended. Yeah, I know. This isn't a preview stream. I did say that I would start Tosin and Vega for that game. Really like Sancho. My biggest issue with him is he needs to shoot more because he never shoots. Yeah, he did have a few chances to shoot, but yeah, you've got to shoot. Enzo back at 2, suffering like I said at the beginning of last season with expectations. Too good to fail. I've seen enough that already. Yeah, I agree. I think he is too good to fail, and I think he will be very valuable throughout the season. But yeah, if you've got a head off, thanks for joining the stream. I'm going to use this chance to tell everybody to please drop a like. Let me have a little check where we're at. Also, I'll take a sip of this. 7 likes. So we need to bump that. We need to bump that mega. Can we get that to at least 20 by the time I next refresh, which will be, I'll do a refresh in 60 seconds. Can everybody watching on YouTube, and even everybody watching on Twitter, go over to the YouTube really quickly, drop a like. It massively helps me out. Every single like massively helps me out as we continue to try and grow this platform and this fan base, or community. That's the word. Community. Keep the questions coming in as well, especially if there's Forest ones, because I think the low block is really interesting. That's what I really wanted to speak about in this stream. I wanted it to be quite low block orientated, or at least to answer your questions about low blocks, because when I went on Twitter after that game, it was very much that we played poorly. A lot of frustration, which I completely get. The frustration, I completely understand it. Because you've drawn a game, and it's similar against Palace, because again, after that Palace game, a lot of the comments and the narrative around social media was that Chelsea were poor. But I think that was just reactionary, and people almost just upset at the fact that we'd drawn a game that we deserved to win, because we played well. We deserved to win that game. And we just didn't see it through. And we didn't. The game plan was perfect. I think Maresca in that game, people will find this crazy. For me, that's one of the best tactical setups we've had this season. I think tactically, So much about that game was spot on. We had our way with Palace. Even the Eze shot, even their goal, should have been saved by Sanchez, right? Not high XG. We kept them at bay. We defended well. We didn't give up a lot, and tactically on the ball, like I said, we had our way with them. We overloaded them in every aspect of the pitch. Back middle third, back middle attacking third. I was really impressed with that game. If we come out of that game with a win, I think we're talking about that with a much different light. Much different light. So it's all about context. And that's what I mean with sort of this game. I think there's a lot. Oh, yeah, we've already smashed up to 11 likes. Can we get to 20? Can we get to 20? 9 more. I'm going to refresh again in a sec. So keep those coming in. Keep the questions coming in as well. Let me just make sure that tweet. Yes, the tweet is all good. Feel bad for Vega, to be honest. First PL start. No, because he started in the Premier League against. Who was it against? Was it against Palace? Was it the Palace game? No, Bournemouth. Bournemouth. He started against Bournemouth as a DM, didn't he? Yes. Because that's another game, right? Yeah, Bournemouth, Ninja Gecko said. Hi, Ninja Gecko, by the way. I didn't see you in the chat. Welcome. That's another game, right? Where the narrative, very different. Because if anything, that's probably our worst game. But we won. And people were happy, and rightfully so. I was very happy. I think, if anything, we actually showed a lot in that game to win when we played poorly. I think we showed a lot of courage. The change made the difference with Nkunku. Oh, you just arrived. Nice one. Nice one. Good to have you here. But yeah, it all matters. Obviously, the result makes a massive difference of how people view games. Like, people look back through this run of fixtures, and it will be, Chelsea played. They drew to Forest. That's poor. Oh, but they beat Bournemouth. They were good then, or they went on a little win streak there. Forest doesn't worry me as a performance. The result is harsh and it's annoying because, again, any game where you drop 2 points, where you feel like you should have had all 3, is going to be annoying. It's going to be upsetting. But I think it was fine. I think it was good enough. I think we controlled large portions of the game. I think the game plan was fine. I think we made chances. And against a low block, you think it's actually a good result. The draw against Forest, I mean, it's at Stamford Bridge, so a good result. A draw against Forest at Stamford Bridge as a good result isn't really. You can't. I feel it's tough to name that a good result. But I get what you mean. Forest aren't a bad side. We're forgetting we come in as this game. They had one of the lowest XGs conceded in the league. I think second behind Liverpool, maybe. They've defended really, really well. Really well. And that brings me on to something, because where is it? Ninja Gecko just said, we've dropped points 3 times this season versus Man City in 2 matches where their goalkeeper was excellent. This is true. Henderson and why am I blanking? Sells. Henderson and Sells, both brilliant. But the City point brings me on to a video that we're going to have out on the channel tomorrow, I believe, maybe Thursday. I'm trying to get a video out every day this week, so I'm trying to remember how I planned it. But I don't know how many of you guys put in the chat. Just put yes in the chat if you do. If you know what the overlap is, the sort of like the overlap fan debate thing that is done by, is it Sky Sports or Sky Bet? Sky in some capacity with Jamie Carragher, Paul Scholes, and them guys. Do you know the overlap fan debate? Has Rory Jennings as one of the Chelsea people that was on there. I think it's had that. Sugar Sean guy, a few bits like that. So yeah, Ninja Gecko's put yes. On Thursday, yeah, Daniel Smith said yes. I'm going to make a video, which I wanted to do for a while, something like this, but I didn't know how to do it. Watch it every now and then, not frequently, yeah. And part of my aim is to get to a point where I can get onto things like this, right? The overlap, or podcasts, all sorts, right? So again, it's very important you like the video, like the stream, because it helps. It makes my videos go bigger and then people notice more. So please do drop a like. But I'm going to react to the Chelsea section of the overlap. I'm going to put it on screen, watch it. I've already seen it, but I'm going to sit through, watch it, pause it. I'm going to let you see what, so the one that I'm on about that I'm going to be doing this Thursday is the Chelsea representative was Rory Jennings. I'm going to leave it so that you can see his bit of what's said. Then I'm going to say my bit of what I would say and how I react and what I think about the issues and the questions and the narratives and all sorts that are being said, just to give my perspective of how I would answer these questions, and then also just to almost open the floor and just be like, at the end of the videos, I'd just love to hear what you guys would have said in these moments, because again, it just allows us as a community to sort of understand like where we're at, how are Chelsea fans feeling, how are we feeling about this, how are we feeling about that. I spend hours and hours every day analysing these things, especially around Chelsea, because it is my club. And I just find it fascinating watching those sort of fan debates where almost things are getting mentioned that I don't know what they've seen. So again, it brings me back to this point. We've dropped 3 points. We've dropped points 3 times this season. 2 of the games, goalkeeper excellent, but the Man City game, I think it was Scholes said in the Man City game or on the overlap about the Man City game, Man City won comfortably, didn't they? And Rory Jennings, he replied with saying that that we couldn't lay a glove on them. Okay. Honestly, I don't know what game they watched there because I didn't watch that game. We were not bad against City. We weren't bad. Did we deserve to win? Maybe not. Would I go to the extent of that we didn't lay a glove on them? Absolutely not. And would I say it was comfortable for City? No, I wouldn't. I thought we were quite good in that game. The first game of the season, I think there was moments. I remember saying in the first day, if anything, I was actually really impressed about that because we actually showed that we can control the game against City, who are the best team in the league at controlling games, and we actually took the ascendancy in a lot of moments. We had better field at tilt than them. Again, to some people that won't mean anything, but the way we played last season under Poch, having that bit of control against one of the best controlling teams in the league, that meant something to me. And that has vindication of what Maresca's trying to do. So enough about that. We're doing a video on that, and I'm putting in it's low effort to produce it, but it's quite a high effort video in terms of I want it to do well. And I'm obviously the thumbnail and I'm going to try and promote it as much as I can on my Twitter and bits and bobs that I can do to get it seen, because that video I think could be really good. So if everybody does see that, it'd be very good if you could drop that one a like as well, and just let me know your thoughts on it. Do you think that's a good idea to sort of do, and maybe do it every time they do the overlap? Maybe I do it every single time, and until they get me on themselves and I can do it live, and then I can start to give Chelsea that sort of representation that I would like to give them, which is harsh but fair at times, right? Because last season it wasn't all happy days, but I think the narratives can sometimes spiral away, and I think it's always fair to give both ends of the stick. I don't think there's enough positivity when it's needed, and I also don't want it to be so far the other way either. I don't want it to be so positive as if there's no negatives. Anyway, let's get back into the comments. I think based off the system we play, it's a good idea to maximise the efficiency of the blocks of 5 that we use so defensively. Adding Guiu and moving Jackson to left wing could make us a better pressing side. I don't think we're a bad pressing side, right? I think a lot of it is, in pre-season, we saw it integrated very aggressively to the detriment, but it didn't matter because it was pre-season. We could have conceded 10 goals a game in pre-season. It wouldn't matter. The idea was to build a trust and learn the press. What we've seen to start the season is a more passive version of it, where we sit off in a more of a low block, and these 2 players almost initiate the trigger to press. And the idea is to essentially let them get to this area, but when they do, everything is forced backwards. That's the idea. And then if you can force them backwards into your traps, into pockets that you're sort of like locking off one side of the pitch. So say Jackson's coming here, he's locking off that. Palmer comes into here. And you know that this is the space, then you can press aggressive. Okay, and I think that's been good. I think the times where we don't look as good is in transition, but I think that's quite natural with where we're at the minute because of timings and things. So yeah, I don't think the pressing's bad. I think I think it's developing still, is how I'd probably put it. We need a goal in the last 15 minutes to win. Put Palmer on the wing, Kunku as second striker, and take off Nonny. The thing is, I still don't think putting Palmer out on the wing is a good idea when we need a goal, because I think then you lose what you get from him. Unless you're going to completely change the dynamics, stop inverting a player, have somebody overlapping him so that he can drift inside, which again I still don't think is ideal, but it works. It's tough because, like I say, for me, when we need a goal in the last 15 minutes, what I would want is somebody to turn it off the bench up front that adds something different to the game, and I don't think we have that. How do you think the return of Reece James can affect the structure? The structure, not much, but maybe he'll play Reece as a right centre back more. But it's really hard to say, actually, because it could change quite a bit now that I say that. Because, say, Reece is obviously going to start right back when he does play, right? So you got the options of. Let's go through it quick. Where is he? There. Let's say everything was the same, but Reece starts here. And I'll get to James's questions in a minute, because I can see he's put two fairly big little bits, and I'll get to those next. And Graviton as well. So we got this back four, how it would be, okay? If Reece was to invert, again, let's just sort of knock this into this. If Reece inverted, how Gusto sort of has, then you have that, and that would keep things relatively the same. Casado's still your legs. Reece has got quality on the ball, and he is good enough off the ball when he is fit. So in that sense, like when he's fit, he can sort of put his body about. He's good at that. So that's fine. That would be good, if anything. But then what we did see a lot in pre-season was him playing more as a right centre-back, which I do think suits him better in terms of being able to face play, conserve when and when not to use that burst of energy or of that like high intensity moments that sometimes maybe cause those injuries. So then if you want him to go right centre back, it almost shifts the entire dynamic, and you end up with Colwell up here, Fofana in here, James there. Fofana I prefer far more as a wide centre back. So at this point, does that become tossing? But then Fofana and Colwell for me are the starting centre back pair, and I want Colwell in the middle. I want Colwell here. So again, it leaves you with this idea. This is better. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens when Reece can play multiple games. And yes, as an 8 is a good idea, because I do think that we might see that happen at times. Do you mean starting as an 8, by the way? I don't mean starting as an 8. Do you mean sort of like drifting, sort of like Gusto does, into this area of the pitch where he is almost considered an 8/10? If that's what you mean, then I agree. If not, then yeah, I don't think he'll start as an 8. And yeah, I agree with that. If he is he's a good shooter at the ball, and if you get Reece in these areas to take shots, then yeah, you are more likely. And even drifting, yeah, then I agree, yeah. And also, if you get Reece in these areas higher up the pitch, so he drifts into this sort of like half space, Palmer's more central. Because sometimes you have seen this, right? This sort of 3-1-6, sometimes like a diamond. It can look in multiple different ways. If this is Reece, perfect zone for those crosses for him. So that's another bonus that you get out of it. And again, brings us back to, somebody said it, this. Just basing this question off your last video, where you mentioned how well Jackson has played, is Osman necessary now, or do we look for a cheaper option? And yeah, if you have watched my last video, as James has, the idea and what I was mentioning was that we don't have the box threat, which I've alluded to already a lot of times in this stream, I'm aware. But I also understand that, again, spending a lot on Osman now could hinder Jackson and how he's felt. And I think he started the season so well. I wouldn't want to do that. So maybe the option is to go in cheaper, as James has said. Do you go in and find somebody more budget, which Duran would have been, by the way? The idea around Duran, I'm still convinced the idea around Duran was to buy him and have him and Jackson compete and share minutes. And I think that would have been a really good balance, because I don't think Duran would have absolutely hounded for minutes straight away. I think he would have been happy playing the sort of bit part minutes for at least the first season. So it buys you time and he gives you a different profile. So I would have loved that. But that didn't happen. Liam Delap, like I said, he's one of them, but I don't think that's the sort of thing that's going to happen yet either. So yes, maybe you do go in for a cheaper option of something different, but in one way or another, a box dominator has to be addressed at some point for this squad, because it is where the lack is for me. It just is. Do you think Carney will ever become a key player for us with the signings of KDH and Felix? Do I think he's good enough? Yeah, easily. I think he's actually got one of the builds nowadays that are becoming rarer and becoming more sought after, because he's a carrier who has technical quality with a ridiculous frame for duels, and just in a midfield, it's sort of like in the midfield, players like what? Loftus-Cheek, Gravenberch, had a bit of twang on it, that, didn't it? Gravenberch. I'm trying to think of like these tall, sort of leggy midfielders. They've got long legs, good duelers, because they've got that frame to do it, but they're also ridiculous carriers of the ball, and they move like ballerinas considering they're 6 foot plus, and they dribble like wingers. It's so refreshing. Carney is one of those. However, if I was to answer your question from Graviton, what we said here, my answer would unfortunately be no, because of what you've said. I think KDH and Felix being signed, the fact that he's not being used as regularly under Maresca, even in the cup games, which, yes, he was ill the other day, but even in the one before that for the Conference League, or was no, against Barrow maybe. One of the cup games where he came on and looked really good. He's not getting the reps, and he's not getting the sort of nod from the manager, whether that's from above Maresca or it is Maresca, I'm not sure. But that would be my answer to that. James also wanted to say, I think you'd be a far better representative of Chelsea fans. People like Rory entertaining, but often think slide between the exchange for the clicks. Yeah, and that's right. Something that I'm going to say in this video as well, that I do, like I say, on Thursday. Me doing this is nothing on the other creators, because like someone like Rory, I think he's actually like very smart in what he does. Like I think he knows. I am sure he knows what he's doing, and he clearly does care about the club, despite what some people say. I do think he cares quite a lot about the club, and he does know his stuff. He knows, especially like historically and like bits about like club heritage. He does know what he's on about in that sense, and he has a platform for it. So I get it, and he's entertaining, and that's not the sort of person that I sort of am with football, and that's sort of not how I am in my career, like with what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to do it from a more tactical element, or like sort of tactical and technical element. So I'm trying to add that, but I also trying to do it from a human level of I want to be fair. I want to praise them and critique them on a fair level, and also try and hit both points, because again, there is essentially no right or wrong answer, especially when it comes to like fan debates. The whole point of a debate is it can go either way. So I want to sort of try and be on both ends and just understand it and just help everybody along with that process, if that makes any sense. Omarodian's another great shout, by the way, I'll talk. And that is another reason why I said about him at the time. I said it would have made a lot of sense. The better we get, the more teams sit off, the more box threat is needed. Yeah, 100%. And again, Waleed, this is exactly what's going to happen. And this is what happens with every team. This is the natural progression of teams. Brighton, for example. You'll find success, but the overarching idea will always be, we want to control the game. Therefore, we want to push teams back. If we push teams back into their own half, we are in a better position defensively, because we're trapping them. We can't concede if we've got the ball in their half. We can't concede. But then we also have to find ways to break that, and patterns of play and ideas and ways to switch up and little bits like that. And that is largely, box threat is a massive part of that. Set pieces, which I still think we're going to be vindicated with at one point or another. when that clicks, I think we'll start to score a few goals from them. And again, they change games. If we go 1-0 up in that Forest game before half time, even if it's from a set piece, from anything, if that game state is broken and we go 1-0 up, 2-0 up, different game. We win the game, happy days. And that's why Arsenal did it so well last season. They broke game states. They broke those drawing game states so quickly in games, or just so easily in games when they were able to go 1-0 up from a set piece. And then it just became natural. They just played their game. And then they'd play some teams off the park for, I think it was 5-0 against West Ham. Their first 2 goals were set pieces. But by then, West Ham are up. They're home and dry. And Arsenal can play, and they're popping it around, and it just looks brilliant because they've broken that game state early. And it's something the coaches will be saying constantly. And that's why you want to start fast as well. Duran won't leave Villa now. Sadly, signed a new contract. Yeah, the time has definitely wavered for Duran. We could not sign Duran. Yeah, it's too late for him now. I know it sounds crazy, but should we go get a player type like Lamina, who has an engine on him? I'm happy with the midfield. I think if anything, if you want that sort of profile, you just sort of like lean into a Gachukwu even more. And can't like the those sort of like leggy jewelers, like you say, and people have an engine, which Ugachukwu does. I think I don't think you need to go and acquire one. I think you just lean into Ugachukwu more, and then continue to build on because the midfield's not an issue for me. Casado, Lavia, and Enzo straight away, bang for me. That's perfect. I love all 3 of them for the team, and then you start to add in other names. Andre Santos, rate him extremely highly. You have Cassaday, who's an option. You have Carney, who I love. You have Ugachukwu, who I think is brilliant as well. So yeah, you've got a lot. You've got a lot there. Carney will do better than Felix if he gets same game time. Different players, and I think Felix is brilliant against low blocks to have, and I do think he actually made a difference when he come on the other days. Or not a massive difference, but it's just sort of like an ability to sort of receive between the lines and play forwards and look forwards. I like that sort of about Felix, and he also helps sort of see games out. If you're 1 or 2-0 up, he's very good at keeping the ball and sort of frustrating the opposition in their half, like little clever touches, ball retention, knowing how to protect the ball with his body. Yeah, he's good for that. I'm not one for profiles because I think our recruitment is more orientated about signing potential to be in the top 5 in the world, but it's in our better interest to get a striker that can combine with others. But we already have that. This is my point. This is why I always say, like, I don't think we need that because we've got link strikers. Jackson is a link-up striker, and if you want to play Nkunku there, he's a link-up striker. And I would even argue Guiu is a bit of a hybrid, but he can do that, and he can press from the front. So when he comes through, he's got that too. And you've got Shim coming through the academy ranks, who's brilliant too. If anything, for me, it still is the box threat. That's what the squad misses. Simon Banza. He's a box threat, I'll give you that. Palmer and Kunku Esteval, such and such, all have 30 goals. And again, and I agree with this, right? The goals don't have to come from the box threat. So I get that what you're saying. That they're like, I'm not saying that the team has to be built around one. I just think that we don't have it, which allows teams to plan for us really easily because Chelsea aren't going to put balls into the box, or at least at a high rate, a high volume. So we don't have to worry about that. So let's force them to put balls into the box. And we will allow them to, we're going to stop them playing. But if we have somebody who can stretch the play and is an absolute nuisance in here, all of a sudden pockets of space start opening up around other areas. And that's where you get the best out of Palmer, Esteval, and Kunku, as you've said there. In regards to box threat, is there something Jackson can learn, get better at? He can get better at it, but I don't think it's his game. He has a physique. He has a physique. I wouldn't say the physique. I've said about Jackson for a while. I think he's very Gyökeres if he bulks up his upper body. If he gets a little bit more top heavy, and sort of just his like composure in the box. For me, Jackson's best qualities are running the channels and sort of just being a bit more wiry, sort of running in behind, being a nuisance. And in that sense, he is physical with it because he's a physical nuisance, and he is strong and he is powerful in the way that he runs. but it's just a different type. He's not the sort of striker you're going to hook balls into, and sort of teams aren't going to have to double team him in the box because he's not that sort of player. And he's also not great with his head. So he's also at the point where even if he is being a massive nuisance, teams aren't threatened by that ball dropping on his head. So that's another sort of thing to take into account. Who would you say is the one player who's either out on loan or is arriving in 2025 that will have the biggest impact? Biggest impact? Wow. I'm going to say Esteval, just because I think him and Paez are just different level. Anselmino's up there for me as well. I think he's off that level. But I don't know who, though, because it depends who at the time gets into the team, and I think it can depend on a few different things. But I'm going to go Esteval because I just think he's a ridiculous talent. Like my strikers like Samu, great in the air, fast, and can score in the box. Yeah, 100% agree. Again, not all my strikers. I love Jackson for what he is. I just think you need something else alongside him to have in the squad because you need options, especially if you're going to be competing on every front at the top level. You need to be able to make changes, and you need to be able to sort of change things accommodating to the opposition. Going to really quickly take this chance to take another sip of this and check how many likes we're on. Go smash the like button just before I refresh this. It's on 20 likes currently. So when I refresh this, can it be on 30? Can it be on 30 in the time that I take a sip from this drink? And then we'll carry on with the comments because we've got quite a few that I still haven't read. I'm going to refresh it in a second. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds to drop a like before I refresh it and see it pop from 20 to 30. That is the aim. Reload. Reload. Didn't work. Didn't work, didn't get 30. I think we should be scouting a right back right now. Action Pong for me is more than good enough, so I wouldn't be scouting a right back. Madueke is underrated by the fan base, not of our players, seems to be shooting on sight at times like Sancho. Yeah, Madueke is so good. He's so Maresca as well. And I said this, I don't know how many of you guys watched the video or remember the video. I said this would happen with Madueke, and I'm so glad I've been vindicated because I think he's been brilliant for Maresca, and I think everything pointed towards it. So I'm very happy about that. Needs to just stick Casadei up front one game. Also, Carney versus Leicester shows why he's needed low block killer. This is true. This is true. And again, that's a link. That's almost a mixture with Carney, is because you get the physicality of him, but you also get the technical ability. So you got both. Other than Palmer and Noni, Jackson, sometimes who can you rely on to score goals for us? And also, we need more goals from midfielders, especially from Enzo. Enzo, if Enzo sort of accommodates him, if he gets the amount of goals, like last season, he scored what was it, 8 in all competitions? Might not be that many actually. 6. If somebody can fact check that for me, how many goals Enzo scored last season, all competitions? That's not the worst, like, because especially when you're playing a 10, like that does count as goals from midfield. So if you're getting Palmer, like you say, Palmer, Noni's improved with goals already. Jackson scoring goals, and Palmer. They're 3. Then you got Nkunku from the bench, who's offering a lot of goals. If an Enzo can get a few, if Casado can get a few, if you can get a few from set pieces from your defenders, Sancho will chip in with some eventually. He's more of a creator, but he will chip in with goals. Then again, from the bench, Felix, Mudryk, who else haven't I got on screen? KDH might get a few from midfield. He can be a goal scoring midfielder if he adds a couple. That's what I mean. So Carney too, if he gets starts. I don't think goals in the team is necessarily an issue. Like I say, the reason I want a box dominant striker isn't necessarily because I don't think there's enough goals in the team. It's more so because of the profiles that I think we need to have a well-rounded squad. Not to such an extreme extent like Jackson. I'm not saying it should be someone who isn't a box dominator, but I'm saying the box dominator shouldn't be a like Haaland profile. See, yeah, I get what you mean, but for me, I think it should be because I want it to be an option. I don't want it to be a constant. I want it to be an option. I want it to be Jackson and someone. So Drogba and Anelka, like they're different profiles. Sort of what I want. it's very different now. But I want a mixture. I think the way I was describing it early in the season is if I was to draw a bubble like this, and I have three striker options, Jackson being obviously the main one, and Kunku being sort of a half striker option. He can play in here as well, but he's sort of in there as well. And then my other striker that I put in here was, let's say, Osman. Does that circle give me the attributes I want from my strikers as a complete level? From those three, can I get everything I want? And I think the answer is yes, if you get a box dominator in there. I think everything else you have there. I think if you get somebody who's good in the air and can dominate the box, I think within that circle, you then have a complete set of strikers. And that's sort of how I tried to describe it. Can you complete that circle? I'm probably going to go for another 10 minutes. We've nearly been going for an hour. Can we at least try and hit? We're at 25 likes now. Can everybody join the stream from Twitter? Because I've now got somehow 600 odd people watching on Twitter, which is ridiculous. Can you really quickly come over to the YouTube? It is in my bio. It's so easy to get to. Literally click on my profile and just click the YouTube link in the bio. Go straight to the video, click the like, and then you can go back to watching on Twitter. But it does so much more for me just getting one like from you on YouTube than having 600 people just watch in silence on Twitter. It helps so much more coming over to the YouTube channel. I can't even describe it. I can't. I don't know how else to tell you. Put it that way. Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry, I didn't read that one. Hot take. The last 3 games is Mudrik's best run of games at Chelsea. I wouldn't say his best run, but I think he's been good. I think he looked very good the other day when he come on, and I think he looked good against Ghent as well. And Barrow. So, yeah, I get what you mean. He has been good. I wouldn't say his best run because he's had runs of games as well in the past where it's been maybe 2 or 3 games where he's scored a few good, nice goals. He's had some nice moments. But I like Mudrik's profile, and I've always said I like Mudrik's profile. And I do hope that this is almost Maresca sort of taunting him in that direction of you can do more. Because that coast to coast, the ability he has, by the way, when he coast to coast, pretty much all the way up this line. Look, he's the movement. It's like he's jogging. But you know, like in terms of actual, he's gliding past players. It's freakish speed. It's ridiculous. And then also going at that speed because it looks so natural to him. Because he's not busting a lung. He then whips in a perfect cross, which I've always said his crossing is really underrated. I think a lot of the time he puts it on a sixpence for players. Yes, he has the odd howler in him, as he does from shooting. But again, I think his ball striking is really good. But he just has a lot of howlers in him in that sense. So Mudrik's that sort of player, and I do really hope it clicks because I think there's so much with him. I really do. But of course, the worse sort of the more things pile up. We need to keep doing well and to just let it, like the way we're going now, and just keep drip feeding him minutes and letting him play in the Conference League and in the Cup and then coming from the bench like he did the other day. He looked good. He looked threatening. Let him do that and grow under Maresca. And I think whilst things are like how they are now, if they're going good and that we continue in that sort of vein, I think things will naturally take their course with Mudryk. But I think he needs sort of that sustained period of sort of almost pressureless, just sort of weight off his shoulders and just let him play. KDH season, we're gonna see him be brilliant in the second half of the season. I hope so. Did you know Jackson is taller than Osman? Yeah, and this is why it's not about height, because Osman and Duran, they're both 6'1", but it's they're powerful jumpers and they're different. It's not all about height. When I say a box dominant player, and like a lot of people get confused as if I'm like, it doesn't have to mean height. Yes, a lot of them are 6 foot plus, and yes, 6'1" and above. You're probably looking at if you are wanting that. But Duran and Osman, they get to places that with the 6'4", 6'5" players because they are that powerful in their leap and timing and positioning of how to do it. I think Pius goes on loan. Yeah, good chance he does, especially with the sort of what came out about him the other day, saying that almost as if Chelsea were like, they were worried about his development so far, which I don't think's entirely true. But yeah, he could definitely go on loan. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. Sort of edge him into that higher level of football. Yes, he's playing international level, but put him on a loan where he's going to play every single week I think Strasbourg would be a really good loan for Paez, to play every single week there. Anselmino going to get that Strasbourg loan, needed like Petr. Yeah, and I think that also makes a lot of sense too. Anselmino to go there. See him having youth minutes for the first few months. Yeah, true. Thoughts on Josh Acheampong? I've heard he's a talent similar to Euro, but I haven't really watched him in the academy. Yeah, he's brilliant. I get the Euro comparisons in terms of like athletic, sort of like dueling and ability. But I wouldn't compare them because I do still think Josh Acheampong is more of a hybrid fullback, like a right back / right centre back, whereas Euro is just a centre back. But I can see like the dueling sort of comparisons, and I do. Josh Acheampong is class. He's brilliant. Delap, so like Delap, Ferguson to an extent. Sesko, Samu, Dag. Does that mean and him? Probably not a box dominator, but has the potential to be. But Duran concerns me. How do you mean concerns you? In terms of a box dominator, I think he's absolutely a box dominator. Like I say, the goal that he scored earlier in the season, where he sort of initiates contact in the box, spins off, and heads one to this back post. I think it's everything you need to know about his box threat, and he can retain it in the box with his strength as well. It's crazy. Enzo got 7, so yeah, that's what I mean. I think if Enzo's giving you 7-8 goals from midfield, considering he is a 6/8 hybrid, I think that's fine. So yeah, like I said before, I don't think the goals is an issue. Noni's decision making still poor, but I think he's relentless. Relentless is the perfect word for Noni. I keep saying it. Perfect word for Noni. Relentless. And he has Palmer chemistry, yeah. Sancho more calm, Noni more direct, causing chaos. Seems like a perfect blend. Balance, I'm not bad. Yeah, I think it is a perfect blend. I agree. That's why I would stick with that for now, for sure. Jackson and Sesko, is that what you'd like as sort of like a mixture? In summer, who do you think we need? So I wouldn't go for Gyökeres. I think he's too similar to what Jackson can be. Any of the other three, I'd be happy with. And that's not to say I wouldn't be happy with Gyökeres because he is just ridiculous. He's literally one of the best strikers in the world. But I just think what you're going to be paying, I don't think you're getting something. You're getting a better version of Jackson with Gyökeres. Whereas I think you can. I just think there's a better way to do it. Put it that way. I think there's a better way to blend them going forwards and to get a better blend of traits by turning Jackson into your Gyökeres, which I think he can be. Can you tell us how far we are from City and Arsenal and what can we do to compete with them soon? That's really tough to say. The answer is time, which is why people aren't really going to like it. But the answer is time. We're already showing that we can, like on a tactical level, we're getting there, but it's going to take a lot of time to get to the real intricacies of what you want to achieve on and off the ball. So it is time. I think the squad as well, given time, the squad will develop, obviously with age. So I think it is a waiting game, but I think we're doing everything right at the minute in terms of growth. I think it's really on a good trajectory now. I think keeping Midrik's appearances 10 minutes gets the best out of him, minimises stupid decisions. If that's in like Premier League games and then he starts the other games and gets more minutes in those, then yeah, fair enough. Oh, okay, you meant Daggin from Salzburg. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. You meant Ferguson to the extent, not Sesko. Duran concerns about leaning towards more of the Haaland profile. Yeah, that's fair enough. Like I say, I think that works well with Jackson and Kunku in terms of creating that sort of circle that I said about. But I get where you're coming from. How far we've... Oh, you just answered that one. Right, we're over the hour mark, so I'm going to leave it to maybe 1 or 2 more questions, whoever puts next in the chat. So if you want to ask 1 or 2 more questions, put it in the chat now. I am going to ask one more time, can everybody hit the like button? Because we're at now 700 people watching on Twitter, maybe like 30 people watching on YouTube. We're at 27 likes on YouTube. Can we at least get that to... Can we get that to 40? Can we get 13 more likes really quickly? Really quickly. Whilst I answer these last few questions, your task, 13 likes. Why do you think more and more fans are hating on Enzo, and how important to the team do you think he is? I think he's extremely important. Why do I think he gets a lot more hate is because I think he's immobile and I think the thing with Enzo is he's easy to criticize because what he does do is what a lot of people consider to be a very natural part of being a midfielder, right? Passing. but he does it at such a high level that he doesn't quite get the praise that he deserves, in my opinion, for that level of his game. And then his efficiencies on the off the ball, it makes him very easy to criticise when things do happen off the ball. So I think that's why he's the scapegoat of that midfield. But yeah, I'm probably going to do a big video on him soon too, because I think there's a lot to discuss with Enzo. I've watched a lot of Vittori's. Yeah, I think he's very, very good. And yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah, I think he's class. He's one that we're watching as well, Chelsea apparently. So yeah, for sure. Will Esteval be used as a touchline winger? For the first part of that question, yes, I think he will be. What happens to Noni? I think that they'll compete, those two, at least to begin with. Let's see how it goes. That's the slight worry I have for Noni long term, is having a level of player like Esteval. But hopefully it means that Noni retains sort of the, especially if Maresca's like doing well and everything's working, Noni retains that level of sort of responsibility from Maresca, and Esteval can be sort of weaved in nicely, and then he can really hit his levels, and he knocks Noni out the team based on merit rather than based on potential quality. And Kunku, I think, the same sort of issue. I think he'll just sort of be a Swiss Army knife player. Whether he likes that or not is the different question. What's the best team we can put out versus Liverpool? We're going to leave that one for the next stream, because I'm going to do a few other videos this week, and then next week I'm going to try and do some Liverpool previews. I'm going to try and get a Liverpool fan on the channel for a Liverpool preview, speak about them, blah, 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 all that stuff. Last question I'll answer is, do you prefer Tosin or Wes Fofana? It's Wes Fofana. And actually, I'll quickly put CFC Analytic here. Esteval will be at least 3 years before he's a consistent starter, still needs time to physically develop. And yeah, and that's why I like the idea of Noni sort of being that responsibility-driven striker at the time that Maresca trusts to weave Esteval in as and when. We're going to leave it there for today. I think we've touched on quite a bit. The low block, bits like that. Spoke about what we're going to do for the rest of the week. Like I said, we're going to have that overlap video out. We're going to have we've got a different type of video coming out as well. And so that will come out maybe tomorrow. Then the overlap video Thursday. Friday will be, I think it's a Cole Palmer video, which is fun. That'll be fun. And then next week, like I said, I'm going to try to get a few guests on the channel during the international break, do a few streams, do a few videos, probably do another reacting to hot takes, little bits like that. And we'll go from there. But thanks everybody for watching. We got up to nearly 1,000 people watching over all the platforms. Let me refresh, see how many likes we got to finish off the stream. 28. So as I leave this, can we hit those last two to at least hit 30? I'm going to end it there. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me over on Twitter as well, where I post sort of threads and little bits after each game. And keep an eye out for the rest of the videos this week, because as I said, I think 3 videos this week that are going to come out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think all 3 of them are actually very good. So I'm very happy for all 3 of them to come out in a row, and hopefully we get good amount of support on all 3 videos. So make sure you're there for those. And I'll catch you guys next time.